Welcome to the Been There, Done That podcast, where we give our guests the opportunity to talk openly about their career, their ups and downs, and all things in between. You can follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can also watch it on YouTube. If you enjoyed the podcast, give us a like and a follow on our social media, which you can find in the link in the show notes. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 12. I'd like to welcome Jake Whetton onto the podcast. Jake is a national hockey player for the Kookaburras and has represented the country at World Championships, Commonwealth Games, and at the Olympics, taking home multiple gold medals. It was a pleasure to have Jake on the podcast to talk through his career, early setbacks, and having to work hard to get back into the national squad. All the best to Jake and the Kookaburras, who are looking to take home gold when they travel to Tokyo for the Olympics. Thank you all, and hope you all enjoy the podcast. We get started. Jake, welcome to the podcast, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, well, thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. A busy morning this morning. Just got off the track.
Busy morning. Getting a bit of sun out at Perth Hockey Stadium. So yeah, training hard and yeah, into here and yeah, super excited.
Also, was it a heavy session this morning?
Yeah, Friday morning. So we normally do a bit of match play stuff, simulation of a bit of a game, which ends up being pretty competitive with 27 blokes vying for 16 spots to go to the Olympic Games at the moment. So becomes pretty competitive on a Friday morning, which is awesome. We all have that winning edge about us and wanting to win and wanting to be better than everyone else. So it was competitive this morning. A couple of bumps and bruises for a few of the boys. So
lovely.
Nice way to start a Friday. And
has it been ramping up now, training?
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, we've with the obviously the Olympics only being 80 odd days away, I guess where the group is at the moment is vying for positions, as I was saying, and unfortunately we haven't got the international games like we would normally have with the shutdown of going overseas and things like that. We've had to play ourselves in a lot of times. We love being able to beat up each other, but we're itching to beat up someone else at the moment. So.
Does it get difficult as well to kind of not so much be motivated, but to kind of almost be motivated to train against each other? Like there's no like competition, not against someone else.
Yeah, for sure. Last year was really difficult, and even leading into this year, knowing that we weren't going to play anyone else except ourselves, there's certainly been challenges behind that. I think the group has been really adaptable, and the way that we've gone about it just has a really high level of culture for our group at the moment, and which is something that I'm really proud of the group, the way we've been able to handle it. Hopefully in the upcoming weeks we're hoping to get over to New Zealand and play a few games at the end of the month, which fingers, toes, everything crossed for that. So that'll be really good. But it's been certainly a challenge, as for every international sport, I guess, in the same boat. But we're doing the best we can with the situation and hoping it's enough later in the year.
I was looking on the social media last week. Was it last week or the week before you went down?
Yeah, down to Busselton. Which was really good. Again, I guess as well, you miss that camaraderie going away with a group. You miss being able to maybe just watch video with a guy, go into the video room or catch a coffee during the day, or when you wake up. You miss that kind of camaraderie within your group when you go on tour for so long. Like we'll go to Europe for 6 weeks. We'll be in each other's back pockets. We'll get to know each other so well. And we've missed that over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. So it was really, really nice to get away. Again, we were playing ourselves. So they end up being international matches anyway. It's the best 27 blokes in Australia, which you put either team out in an international game and they're going to compete. So it's an international standard game. Like I said, unfortunately, we're bashing each other up for spots where we want to do that to someone else.
Oh, so where you guys sit in the world rankings as well, is that it's top three?
I think we're second at the moment. There's still a few games being played over in Europe, which is great to watch. It sucks not being able to participate in them, but for us, it's good to sit down and watch them go at it. But we don't get any ranking points from not playing.
Exactly. Do you kind of as a group take note of where you are and kind of say, well, if we're playing like we're the second best, we're playing against each other, so obviously we're a top level. We should be able to train.
For sure. Definitely. 100%. We know that our games in the inter-squad games that we play are are going to be some of the best hockey that's played in the world. When you look at it, if you look back at the video of it and compare it to maybe some of the Pro League games, which is the competition running in Europe at the moment, there's the standard is very, very similar, and the quality is just as good as the games being played over there. So we know that the standard that we're playing is quite high, and we just need to keep that up. And when we do get to play an international game or against someone else, that we bring that and step it up as well.
As well, you're a Queenslander as well, young. Yep. Whereabouts from Queensland are you from?
I'm born and bred in Brisbane, so a city boy. Yeah, born and bred. Grew up there from the age of, born there, and then I moved to Rockhampton. Dad got a job up in Rocky when I was pretty young. Me and my sister. Okay. I think she was 2 and I was 4 or something like that. We went up there for 6 months to a year. Played a little bit of hockey up there, just running around after the white ball, and then came back to Brizzy and started school in Brizzy and everything. And how
old were you when you were playing hockey? Your first?
Yeah, my first game. Off the top of my head, I've got a medal from '96.
Oh wow!
I believe so. I would have been about 4 or 5. Yeah. I don't remember a whole lot of what I was going or what I was doing, but I guess it was more like a hockey. Hockey became more of like a daycare for mum and dad. We would go out and play on a Saturday morning, and mum and dad would play in the afternoon, and we would spend all Saturday out at a hockey centre somewhere in Brisbane or up in Rocky. And
nice.
Pretty much mum would say that me and my sister will drop you off here and we'll see you back at the car at 4 p.m. Go and do whatever. And it's such a family orientated sport that everyone knew everyone, and you asked for a lolly over here and someone would buy you one, and then kid would ask mum for one and she'd get him or her one. So it was such a cool environment to grow up in. And moving down to Brisbane, we with the same thing, went to Eastern Suburbs Hockey Club, which is my junior club. And the same thing. Thursday night we'd be training and we'd get there early at 4 o'clock, and we wouldn't leave until 9 because we'd be out playing hockey or playing footy or kicking the ball or tackling each other, something stupid on a Thursday night. And then Saturday, the same thing again. Mum and dad would play in the afternoon, the kids would play in the morning, and we'd end up just spending all day out at hockey. So it was, it was a really cool way to grow up for sure.
That's awesome. And now I was reading this morning your accomplishments and all the accolades. Did you know back then that this was going to be hockey was going to be your thing?
Nah, not really. I didn't probably know until I guess the 2004 Olympic Games that hockey actually you could play further than just mucking around and having some fun with your friends. Dad was really good. He sat me down and we watched pretty much every game at the Olympics that year, and fortunately for the Kookaburras that year, they won the gold medal, and that kind of spurred me to want to get to that level. It wasn't until about then, but I was involved in all kind of sports at school. I played soccer, I played cricket, hockey was one as well. But it wasn't probably until I was about 12, 13 that I wanted to pursue hockey. I loved cricket more, and I still love cricket. I'm a huge fan of cricket, and I probably love that more than hockey, but it was over 2 days, and I didn't want to play cricket over 2 days. As a kid, I wanted to have Sunday where I could go and play with my friends or not just rock up to stand in the field really. And hockey was only Saturday, and I knew that, so I went down that pathway.
It's a fair share. I still look back and think, why did I play cricket for I didn't I played at a high level or anything, but why did I waste Sunday?
Yeah, for sure.
I could have done something else at the time or something else like that. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So, and then you don't even there's so many your accolades the list goes so long. You probably you wouldn't even know most of the top of your head, but there's one that's still missing. That's the Olympics.
Yeah, the one.
Olympic gold medal, isn't it? So that's obviously driving you through.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 5 years now since the last. Was Rio was the last one? So it's been 5 years, and it's that little bit of an extended wait is probably it's fueled the fire a little bit more for you and everyone else.
Yeah, it certainly has. Last year was a pretty difficult period in knowing, and like I mentioned before, hockey at the Olympics is the number one goal for our sport. It's the World Cup for soccer. It's the World Cup for cricket, the Ashes for cricket, stuff like that. So the Olympic Games for us is the pinnacle of our sport. And I remember the day we got told that it was going to be called off or postponed. And it was difficult, not taking away the situation in the world. But that what we were living in, that was our main focus and had been for
Mm.
much 4 years. You play the other tournaments throughout, but in the back of your head, the Tokyo Olympics was the aim, and I guess the disappointment from Rio was still there, and still is burning in the back, certainly for myself and those guys.
Still a similar squad?
No, it's changed quite heavily. The coaching staff has completely changed.
Yeah.
We've changed. There's been a fair bit of turnover from Rio.
Okay.
The way we've played is a little bit different as well. So we've changed a fair bit over that 4 year period, which has been really good. There's a lot of I guess the younger guy saying that feels a bit weird, but the younger guys coming in and really pushing the group for further and better than where we were in Rio. And it's exciting and has been exciting past 4 years. And for it to get postponed was difficult, but sitting here now, it's only 80 days away, and we're chomping at the bit to get over there and play.
I bet. So over a 4 year period, what are the kind of the key kind of landmarks or the competitions that you've got? The Pro League in there, and then you've got World Championships. Where does that all sit?
So
so you finish off the Olympics. What's next?
The Pro League has been I think one of the best introductions to international hockey, the format of it. In previous years, probably before the Pro League, we maybe only play the European teams once or twice every 3 or 4 years. And then you get to Olympic Games and you have to play them in a quarterfinal where it's whoever wins goes through. And now that this Pro League system is a bit of a home and away, we go to Europe, play them a couple of times. They might come out to Australia the next year and play a couple of times. So we're seeing them a lot more rather than just the 1 or 2 games every 3 or 4 years. So I think that, as well as the exposure for hockey, it's obviously not as professional in Australia that we would like, and getting more home games. We played before last year, we played 2 in Melbourne, 2 in Sydney, 2 in Perth, so 6 games, whereas in the past we might only play 2 or 3 games in Australia for that year, and the exposure is just so limited. So this Pro League format, it gets us around Australia to be able to play in front of home crowds and get kids, willing and wanting to become a hockey rule, become a kookaburra. So that's been really good. So that's kind of an ongoing competition, and then we have the World Cup every second year as well. So it was in 18. It'll be in 22 at the end of the year or start of 23, something like that.
And then Com Games
as well. So they are probably the 2 bigger competitions. You have little tournaments maybe in Malaysia or things like that along the way, but they're our 2 other big tournaments, the World Cup and Com Games, as well as the Olympics.
So is the idea for win all of them? Like, you kind of go into your play, you might play a different squad to see, have different looks, but the idea is always to win?
100%. We I guess Aussies culture is to win, and no matter what. There's certainly periods within the year that the coaches might give someone or some of the less experienced guys or new guys an opportunity. The Pro League presents a really good opportunity for that. I think you end up playing 12 or 14 games throughout that, and it's the top 4. So you've got a really good opportunity to make that top 4 and then play a semi, and that's when you whittle down. Probably you play your best team at the end there, but you've got that opportunity to play guys that need experience, because that's the way you get better, is the experience. And I think that's been the difficult thing for maybe some of the young guys, that they haven't at the moment, is they just haven't had that exposure to international hockey. It's like I was saying before, the intra-squad games are really good, but then it's just another step up playing against someone else. So.
Yeah, there is that difference between like your match sim or whatever. And then you got the pressure of the other team. 100%. Everyone else are looking on you and all that.
Definitely. So
weighs you down.
Yeah. And then I guess the coaching staff then choose a team that they believe that will win a World Cup or a Com Games. And we certainly go into every competition wanting to win. And we're disappointed at the moment if we don't come away not winning a gold medal at a tournament.
So they got those. That 4 year period is so full of competition, all that sort of stuff. Is there time in there at all that you get a rest?
It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. No, but there is. And like I was saying just before we started this, the coaching staff are really, really good at the flexibility and knowing when the group needs a break. And I guess they can see that watching back trainings, and there might be a little fatigue here or there, or especially after a tournament, we normally get 2 to 4 weeks off after a tournament to go away and refresh, and that might be in the past. If we have played in Europe, guys might stay in Europe for a holiday or might be able to get back to their home state and spend time with friends and family that they've grown up with, or it's it's a good way to refresh and get back into it. It's been a little bit different because we haven't been able to obviously travel around. So training has been quite full on for an extended period of time, but the coaches are really good. We had the Anzac Day long weekend off and little things like that, which it might only seem like 3 days, but 3 days for us is like weeks. You can go away, you can refresh. Some boys went camping. I spent time with the family down at the beach, little things like that, which just refresh you, and you come back on the Tuesday or Wednesday and you're hungry and ready to go again.
Do you find it hard to switch once you get a period of time off? Is it harder to switch back on, or is it pretty easy now that you've been through it?
Yeah, I think for myself it was difficult when I was younger. You kind of you might have taken it a little bit for granted, that rest, and then all of a sudden you come back in and guys again are pretty fit and hungry and wanting to show that they're at the top of their trade right at the start. Whereas I probably might have taken it a little bit easy. At the moment, I know that if we have a week off, I can't have a week off without my body being sore. So 3 or 4 days I'll go for a run. It's not hard, but it keeps me, when we do get back into training, that I know that I'm not going to be sore for the next week and maybe my performance will slip. So I've learned over the years that what I need to do when we do have a break, and that's not saying I don't go out there and flog myself with 10 hundreds or anything like that, but it's to keep on top of my body. And maybe as a young kid, you kind of take that a little bit for granted and, it'll be all right. I'll just sit on the couch or something like that and get back to training. It's like, oh shit, I'm a bit sore, or these guys are flying and I'm, got a week to catch up. So it's, it's certainly changed over the years, but it's, such a good way to be able to refresh and just mentally as well, to get away from a hockey field for a couple of days is like gold at the moment.
Yeah, I bet. I've always find it fascinating, the human body, how quickly it adapts and you can respond. That's why I went down the strength and conditioning field, just the ability to give it like shock stimulus and then see how it adapts, or even the other way around. Like you take 3 or 4 days off and then how it would quickly reverse, like your body stiffens up.
It certainly does.
It's not using the range, not using the muscle, and you just lock up and you get tight and you're like, I haven't done anything. What am I so tight for?
Right.
It's because you haven't moved, mate.
Yeah.
That's why it's crazy. Right. As well, so you've got the Olympics, you've got the Commonwealth Games, you've got World Championships. Do you go back to play club at all through that time?
Yeah. Using last year as a bit of a segue, that we were able to spend a lot of time last year playing club hockey, obviously with nothing. But normally we do get a chance to go back and play club hockey, and for us, it's a good way to reconnect with the community in Perth, and to, I guess, to give back to a club that when I first moved over, I play over here with the Vic Park Panthers, and they, the way it works is when you move over from interstate, you get put in a draft system, so that you just don't go in one team stacked with 6 or 7 Aussie players, and it works pretty well. There's obviously hiccups along the way, but the Vic Park, I was luckily enough drafted to Vic Park when I first came over, and they've been really good to me, giving me time off when I need it, and anytime I can get back to Vic Park and play, and I guess help out their juniors and help out the club that has given a lot to me since I've been in Perth, is really important for myself. And it's nice to play. I've got 2 of my best mates that were best man at my wedding that I played at Vic Park, and they don't. One of them plays, one of them doesn't anymore. But the last few years we were able to play together, and little things like that, which you get to do, and you have a lemonade after the game with them, and it is good fun, and there's not a lot of pressure on. You still obviously want to win, and you go out there to win, but if you don't win, there's not criticism of your performance as such. It's
so the national squad, they don't look at that.
Oh, they do in a sense, but they don't come in like sometimes you might just have an off day, or sometimes your team might lose, and you don't get harped on about it. It's you're there to when you're out there, you perform at the best of your ability, which I think is really, really key. You don't want to go out there and take the mickey out of club competition because it's not sending the right message to the club. And I don't think anyone does that in both programs with the Hockey Roos and the Kookaburras. No one goes out there and just because they have to, they go out there to win. And
yeah, for sure.
It's just a good way to get back to club hockey, and that's essentially where everyone comes through. That's where you start your hockey. And I didn't start as a junior at Vic Park, but they certainly have helped me since I've moved over and I've made friendships. And
so when you're going like a camp, I guess you say, for lack of a better term, you're going to camp for like the comp games.
Yep.
However long it takes, do you still, in those weekends, do you go play for club or are you exclusively just training?
Yeah, it depends, I guess, on the competition. Yeah. So maybe the Pro League isn't because we're away a lot. So you kind of come back in the weekends that we do get at home. You kind of need that rest rather than – I think some guys do go and play, or if you're not selected maybe on that tour, you've got an opportunity to go back and play club hockey rather than just sitting around, like you said, and you get sore for 3 days and don't do anything. So there's an opportunity to do that. Leading up to the Olympics or Com Games, it's kind of a little bit put on the back burner as such. The coaching staff as well have to they have to manage 27 blokes as well, and we're kind of doing about 25 to 30 Ks a week just in training. And then you add on a game, which is probably for us, we probably run 7 or 8 Ks in a game. So that's looking at like a marathon every week if you go out and on your legs. So it's a pretty big week. So at the moment, we're not playing club hockey. The coaching staff are controlling what we're doing, which I think is the right way to go about things. And we've got GPS systems and all that. Oops, sorry.
No, you're right.
All that kind of thing, which our S&C coach, he monitors, and there might be guys at the end of the week that need to do a couple of top-up runs or things like that to make sure the group is hitting their goals. But, if you go and add another 9K game on the weekend, it just, becomes pretty draining when you're running 40 Ks a week.
And mentally as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You spend another day out at a hockey centre where you could be down at the beach or playing golf or something like that to get away from hockey for sure.
It was interesting. I had Jono in 2 weeks ago when he was saying when he first went to AFL system, he said his body was like, obviously his body's sore, but he didn't quite understand how mentally draining, because out of all the trainings, you've got the trainings, but you've got the meetings and all that sort of, you're learning all the structures, you're learning the tactics.
Yep.
That was draining him at the end. And then he said he ended up retiring when he was 21 because he's like mentally I had enough.
Yeah.
Is that kind of similar when you first moved over? You kind of had this experience similar?
Yes, it's very similar. I guess probably the first thing was that I can't, not that I got thrown into the deep end as such, but I'd only experienced kind of AHL level for a couple of years, which is back then it was the Australian Hockey League. So I played in 2009 and 2010 and then moved to Perth in 2011 on a scholarship. So I hadn't had probably the exposure that I needed to be where I thought I was. I moved over and made my debut when things were going really well in 2011, and then I was dropped in 2012 from the squad completely. So that was a bit of a not. I guess it was at the time. Looking back, it probably was. It was definitely the correct decision by the coaching staff. I thought I was flying and I was going away with the group and playing and thought everything was handy and going really well. And then all of a sudden I was dropped, and it was kind of a bit of a reality check to be like, I looking back, I really needed that, to bit of a kick in the bum to say like, we've put you in this situation, but you haven't performed, and this is what happened in elite sports, and you've got to work your way back into it. And it's certainly from that point, it was mentally I was like, I don't know if I can do this. It was a year of like you said, there's meetings. The game is so much faster even at training than what it is at AHL or club hockey, what I was playing back in Brizzy, and things were going, for myself, I thought they were going right, but obviously they weren't. So it was, a bit of a reality check back then, and certainly needed, I think. And making that decision I could have easily packed up and moved back to Brizzy and just played in the comp there and potentially tried to work my way back through the AHL system, but I decided to stay in Perth and work my way back through club hockey in Perth. It's a little bit helpful with the selectors and the coaching staff being in Perth. They can watch your club games and things like that. Not that they were necessarily watching myself in particular, but they had to still watch the national players play, and I just happened to be playing in the competition that they did, and worked my way back through and ended up getting back into the squad in 13. So
it was a year off.
So had a year off away from the group. Fortunately enough, at that time, there was probably about 10 guys that had moved interstate to play in Perth, and we were all in the same situation. So we actually were thrown into a development group, which we trained on our own. There was about 10 of us, and we trained away from the senior team, but as a group. And at that time, it was the oldest guy would have been like 25 or 26. So it was quite a young group, but we still all had that burning desire to play for the Kookaburras again. A few guys had, a few guys hadn't, but we all wanted the same end goal, as to be in the senior squad. And nearly probably all of us have in that group have now played for Australia at some point in time from that 2012 group to now. So which is a pretty cool thing to look back at. But it was certainly, I didn't have any friends or close friends at the time. Sure. My partner, wife now, but she'd moved over. So we were kind of, left in a little bit of a limbo. Yeah, no family. We moved all the way across Australia to chase this dream, and it was there and then was taken away. So it was quite difficult at the time.
Was there a bit of, when you got the notice that you were dropped, there was a bit of proving someone else wrong that made you train harder? Did it fuel the fire?
Yeah, definitely. Thinking back, that was probably and it sounds a little bit petty, but that was it. It was to prove the coaching staff that they had made the wrong decision as such, to leave me out of the group. And fortunately, I had a really, really good year. Again, coming back to Vic Park, they supported me through that time. And I actually, with another player from Vic Park, Ian Bircher, we won the best and fairest from the same club, which has never been done before. So we both, for the club season that year, me and him from the same club got the most votes out of the competition and won the best and fairest, which is something I think we worked out that maybe one of the waffle teams had done it a long, long time ago, but it's the only time in sport we could find that in Perth that two guys from the same team had won the best and fairest medal. So I had a really good year, and luckily enough was able to work my way back in. And
was there, when you got released, was there a support network that kind of, you can go do your own, strength and conditioning or fitness sort of stuff? Were you able to go back to the State Institute at that time?
Luckily enough, this development group, we kind of worked out a way, and with the help of Hockey Australia, we worked out a way to be able to still train at a pretty high level away from the national group. So they were doing their thing, and we were able to get some turf time. We were able to go to a gym on our own as that group. Not so much with weights at the time, but we made a Kate Starr, who's next Hockey-Roo. I think she now works as Freo, the Freo AFLW team. She was our strength and conditioning coach during that period.
Oh, there you go.
She had a gym, I believe it was in Osmond Park at the time, and this shed, and it was awesome. We would rock up. It was during summer. It was 50 degrees in this shed, and we were just sweating out hard sessions, and she was putting us through our paces, and it was just a real good way of being able to stay really fit, stay really close within the hockey, circle as such, playing with a group of guys, like I said before, that were really determined to get back into or to make it for the first time into that senior group, and having a good coaching. We had Craig Victory, who was an ex-Kookaburra, coaching us. Dibsy, who is he was running the sessions as well when he could. So we had a really good group around, and people that were pushing us as well, as not just going, go and just see it, or maybe good luck to yourself kind of thing. So we made the most of that, and like I said before, I think the 10 of us have now played a game for Australia, which is pretty cool.
You were quite young at the time. Was that
I would have been 20, I think, at the time, 20, 21.
So you would have been younger when you first played.
Yeah, so I debuted, I think I was, 19, nearly turning 20. So just turned 19. Oh, sorry, just about to turn 20, yeah.
Did you feel that was too young, possibly?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. Again, probably looking back at the games that I played during that span, I might have played 20, 25 games before I was dropped. And
Wow.
yeah, I think so. I think I probably just didn't have the experience behind me as such. How fast the game was. I think that was where it threw me a little bit. Looking back, the game was just unbelievably quick. How fast these guys, I was playing with like Jamie, who'd been around for long then, and like best player in the world, playing against like Turned Neuer, guys from Holland who are just world class athletes, and then there's this young 19-year-old running around a little bit with his head like a chicken with his head cut off, I guess. And then probably took me again, even start of 13 was how can I best fit into this team? I might not be like Jamie ever, and I never will be, but how can I make myself a player and to where I need to be for this group, and not try and be like anyone else, be myself, I guess, was the big takeaway I took from that kind of stage of my life.
For sure. What did you when you got back into the team? Was there was it communicated to you what you needed to do to get back?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that was I remember Rick Charlesworth was the coach at the time, and he was really good for myself. And the way he explained it, there's a player that was playing at the time, Des Abbott, this big, strong striker who was unbelievably at scoring goals, could hit a ball at 200 k's an hour, just an unbelievable talent of hockey. And Rick pretty much said the same thing, Jake, you're never ever going to be a Des Abbott. You're never ever going to be a Glenn Turner, who was around at the same time. These big, huge body athletes that I just am not, and I'm still not. I've tried at the gym for 11 years, and I don't think I've put on any kind of muscle. So I was never ever going to be someone like that who was being able to get in front of a guy and muscle a guy out. So I had to work out how I could fit into the team, and I did a lot of work on my speed and change of direction and my agility and getting in behind and making really short, sharp leads within inside the circle, or getting on the far post, diving. Like you can see my knees, they're pretty much just like there's no skin left on them. Anytime I could fall over on your floor and they'd bleed kind of thing. So I had to make the best situation for myself. And I think I worked that out quite quickly and and that held me in good stead going forward from 13, and I've been in the squad ever since. So I was really lucky with that advice, and it still sticks with me today. I'm never going to be like I'm never going to be like an Aaron Zalewski in the midfield. I have to change the way that I play. Sorry, I have to stay the way that I play, not try and change like someone else, because it's just not the way to go about it. You have to work out the best way to play it at your set skills, and 100%. I think I've been able to do that pretty well over my career.
That's what Barbie said, the similar thing last week.
Yep.
She was saying, like, you don't want to be if a team is missing a leg spinner, you don't want to be you don't want to force yourself to be leg spinners, play your own game.
Yeah. We, I guess going on from that, we speak a lot about in the Kookaburras about knowing your set skill, and we talk about 3 different positions within the group. Is we speak about top of trade, so someone who can do their job 99 out of 100 times, whether that's hit the ball, slap the ball, push the ball, trap the ball, any of that. We have then someone like a game breaker, which I think in the group we have 3 or 4 guys that if we need someone to create the game or break the game open, we know that these guys are going to be it. And then we have game managers as well. So we kind of break it down into a 3 kind of system parts, where if everyone was a game breaker, everyone would just run the ball forward and get dispossessed and probably be turned over. If everyone was top of trade and we didn't have those game breakers, then we wouldn't be able to score goals. Or if everyone was a game manager, we'd just sit with the ball in the midfield or at the back and just pass and not take the game on. So for me, I think that sits really well with our group at the moment. We have a really good core players of which sit in each. And then for the new guys coming in, it's, where do I sit in that, and how can I be a really good game breaker, or how can I be a top of trade? Yeah, we want everyone to be at the top of trade, but we also need those other guys within the system. And I think looking back, that's only kind of come in recently, but looking back, that's where I think was able to, really hone in on my skills as a young guy, and be able to stay in the squad and not be dropped again.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. You mentioned the game breaker, the game managers. Is there over a course of a game, do you kind of, well, you might know this, maybe might not. Do you try to have more of a game breaker on at a certain period, or do you have more managers, or is it more communicating like let's manage the time, or general statement?
Yeah, I think it's like situational based. Yeah. Like if we're down, then in the score as such, then we might need a couple of. Or someone might need to change to a game breaker rather than be a top of trade. They might need to do something else. But I think again, saying about the group, we've got a really good understanding about who sits where, and which is really healthy for our group. We know that if I get the ball to a certain someone, he's going to be able to create something for us. Or I know that if there's a one-on-one, the defenders behind me are going to be top trade of being able to tackle that guy. So we have really good, really high trust in each other and where we all sit in that kind of area, I guess.
That's awesome.
If that answers your question.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because you don't want to have a team full of Dustin Martins.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Well, it would be very, very cool to watch, but for the group, it would be it'd probably be
high scoring game.
Either end. Defending. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Rick Charlesworth is not a stranger to the podcast. He's been mentioned a few times. We obviously played under him as a coach. What was kind of the key takeaways from his coaching that have helped you to be the player you are today?
Yeah. He was very intimidating. It took me probably 2 or 3 years to even say hello to the guy.
Yeah. Right.
But I think his presence just demanded the utmost of quality that every time that, and that's no different now. The coaches expect everyone to be able to trap a ball now. I just think the way that he coached and the way that he went about things was, you're going to give me 100% every single time. And for some players that worked, and for some players it didn't. And it certainly didn't for me at the start. Like I said at the start, I just couldn't give 100% every time because I wasn't up to the speed of the game. I was probably not as fit as some of the guys, and that's probably where it led to me and for Rick giving me a little bit of a kick up the bum, saying like, you've got to go away and work on these things. But when I came back, I certainly, believed that his message was correct. And I went, like I said before, I went away and worked really hard and was able to compete a lot more than what I had done in the past, coming in as a younger guy. So the way that he coached was really direct. And thinking back, the times that we were really successful under Rick, which was pretty much 98% of the time, was his game plan was go and get the ball. No matter where it was, go and get it and win it back. And they can't score with the ball. Well, without the ball, sorry. And
right.
So we would press. And the game of hockey has changed a little bit since Rick's been gone with the quarters now, and guys can play a lot longer. But talking about probably the 2014 World Cup, where it resonates a lot, was half game, like 35-minute halves, where guys from the other team couldn't play. And sometimes we couldn't either with the heat or the way it was, but it's pretty difficult to run out 35 minutes without having a break.
Yeah.
But the way that Rick was able to, I guess, one, select the team to be able to put pressure on the other team to win the ball back. We think of that 14 World Cup, we only had 3 goals against us for the 8 games we played, and like 35 goals for, and we ended up winning the final like 6-0 against a team that you look on paper and go, this is going to be a really, really exciting game of hockey. But the constant pressure that we were able to put on each team every time, I think that was Rick's way of playing. And again, the game's changed a little bit because you only need to run out 15 minutes now and you can have a break. So the tactics of international hockey have changed a little bit, but the way that he had his game plans and everything, and everyone bought into that. We knew that if we were going to do it, we were going to be the best in the world at it, and certainly were.
Yeah, that seems a common theme when most people talk about him. Is like everyone bought into like whenever he says something, everyone just listened.
Yeah.
Was there anything that he did differently? Like, was it just because he was so manic, like so hard on everyone that they just listened?
Yeah, I think that his demeanor and the way he went about things, and it's hard for me to comment because he was the first coach, so I never knew anything kind of before Rick. I had club hockey back, but it's completely different. Like it's irrelevant to compare the two of them because it's just not worth comparing them. So I never really had anyone to compare to Rick. Rick was my first national coach. I had Greg Browning as my first AHL coach, and he was more of he looked after me, kind of put his arm around my shoulder as a young kid. He would invite me down to like Queensland Blades training and things like that when I was 15, 16, just to get a bit of an experience about how it goes. So he was more of because I got the back end of Greg. I only played 1 year under Greg Browning, but I respected him so highly in what he did with that group. And then so Rick was my first national coach, and the first game was like, we're pressing, and it's like, okay. And then ever since it was, we're pressing, we're going to get the ball off the other team and we're going to score. And that's kind of the only way I ever knew how to play hockey under Rick, and it was so successful that we continued to do it.
A clear message.
Yeah. And like you said, everyone bought into it 98% of the time. And you go back and look probably at the stats, and I think we might have only lost, the team from Rick might have only lost like 3 or 4 games. Like, unfortunately, one of those was in London, which was the semi-final against Germany, which is obviously very disappointing. But yeah, the stats behind it would show that the way that we played was working, and why change something that's working, kind of thing. So, and he just demanded that from everyone, whether you were like I said, whether you were the younger guy in the room or you were Jamie or Mark Knowles, who had been in the group for not forever, but for a long time.
Yeah,
like they demanded this. He demanded the same out of everyone.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because he's gone off and he's done stuff at Freo, and he's now
done a lot.
Wolves.
Yeah, he coaches Wolves. He helps out at Christchurch, the PSA hockey coach, or does some kind of involvement with them, and now on the selection panel with the Hockey Roos. So yeah,
just recently. Yeah,
he's certainly been in and around, and I think I'll forever be grateful to have to being able to play underneath Rick as a player. It will always be something that I look really fondly back at and appreciate what he'd done, what he did for me as a player, for sure.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Going on now, have you changed, not recently, but like you have changed positions in the past from striker to midfielder, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
What about that change? Just
so our new coach, Colin Batch, he was the one who asked me whether or not I would like to play there, which I was quite surprised at. I hadn't really thought about it. At the time, I was kind of maybe a little bit naive about it. I was like, I don't really want to play there. I've played my whole life as a striker. I thought I've cemented myself as a striker, and he challenged me to be more involved in the game. He wanted me to, not just touch the ball maybe 4 or 5 times. Unfortunately, as a striker, sometimes you just end up running around and you don't get many touches. So he challenged me a lot he wanted me to be involved in the game more and have the ball on the end of my stick in pressure situations more. And it came about probably in 2017. I started more so as like an attacking midfielder, still being able to go forward and score goals and be involved up front. And probably at the start of 18 decided that my qualities were further back in the defensive midfield role, and being able to handle the ball a little bit more under those midfield pressures that everyone wants to steal the ball in the midfield and things like that. So for me, I think it was a really good refresher as well.
Okay.
It was something that the group had changed, and the coaching the coaching group had changed and taken a new direction with the group. And for me to be involved more, I think it was for my career as well, it's been a huge shift, and I love it in there. I look back and be like, why did I ever play striker for the amount of touches that I get now? Yeah, for sure. And in saying that, I look back and I probably would never have made the team if I played midfield with the guys like Simon Orchard, Eddie Ockenden, these guys running around in midfield. There was no chance I was ever going to get a game there. But it probably with the new group and in 17 after Rio, when everything changed, it was an opportunity and I took it, and I've loved every minute of it. It's challenging. It's completely different thought process than what it is as a striker. And I love it in there.
Was there anything that your skill set as a striker that helped you transition to being that midfielder, or was it completely different?
I think I still really emphasize my speed and agility in the midfield. I think that's a really big strong point in my ability to be able to change direction really quickly, or be able to run past a defender or my opponent with my speed. I think that still works really well. I've certainly learnt along the way that I can't just get the ball and try and or beat my opponent one-on-one a lot of the times, because it's such a heightened position that if I do get stolen in the midfield, there's only 30 or 40 yards to the goal. Whereas if I did that in our attacking circle, they've still got 100 yards. So probably not great saying this, but it didn't matter as much, I guess, if I lost the ball as a striker. Whereas if I lose the ball in the midfield, it's counter-attack central, and certainly more heightened in there. But I think they're still some of the skills that I have brought back with me for sure.
Is it harder to read the game as a midfielder, or is it as a striker?
I think as a striker, I believe it's harder. I think with the involvement that you get in the midfield, you can kind of set plays up with the defenders. You can kind of connect forward with our strikers, whereas as a striker, you might be the furthest guy away and be really difficult for them to connect because you're so far away. So in the midfield, you're getting a lot of touches. You're making plays. You're setting up, going forward. And I love being able to. I honestly couldn't care less if I didn't score any goals for the rest of my career, as long as we're winning the game. I love being able to just put the ball onto someone's stick and those guys hit it in. I think that's such the satisfaction now that I get out of playing in the midfield, is assisting guys being able to score, and I love that.
That's almost like a wiser head kind of thing, isn't it? Like, you're younger, you're striker, I want to score
for sure. And I still get up there occasionally. I've probably lost that knack of maybe scoring ability. I still work pretty hard on it in individual sessions and when I do get the opportunity. But the satisfaction of seeing the ball go in the back of the net from a play that potentially comes through your position or the other, like a Aaron Zalewski or a Flynn Ogilvie, who are in that position as well, is so satisfying, because we watch so much film. We talk about things and how can we manipulate the defenders, and then when it comes off in training or it comes off in a game, you look back at it and you go, that's pretty cool. We've been working on that for some time, and for it to come to fruition, it's pretty cool.
Do you have to have a pretty high level of hockey IQ, obviously as a striker as well, but do you have to go back and rethink a lot of the game as a midfielder?
Yeah, for sure. It's again, I talk about that heightened ability in the midfield, is the way that hockey has gone now. A lot of teams play zonal hockey, rather than kind of marking and chasing your guy. You kind of stay in your zone, and unfortunately for the midfield group, when you do get the ball, that zone collapses in on where you're positioning, and if you're off by a missed trap or the ball doesn't come where you are, you're getting pounced on by a striker, a midfielder, and probably the other midfielder as well. So your IQ is, do I have to receive and pass the ball straight back, or can I open up my receive and play against my opponent because they haven't pushed up on me, or little things like that, which, I find really challenging, and love the challenge of being able to, again, manipulate my opponent or my side of the field to open and create for others.
Because hockey is such an interesting sport as well, because have to have that IQ, like where I'm going to go, where I'm going to pass it, but you have to have the skill as well. You can have the one side, you can not be reading it well, but have all the skill, and then you can have in bad form with your technique and your skill, but be reading and be like, I just can't get it.
Can't get it. Yeah, exactly. And that's a perfect way of describing a midfielder's day at the office, is you could be trapping everything but not we call it pre-scanning, not looking forward and not seeing what is available. Or like you said, the other side of it, you could be pre-scanning and connecting with someone forward or connecting with someone back, and all of a sudden you've mistrapped it in. What's the point of doing all that if you can't trap the ball? So for myself is I probably go the latter, is that I want to be able to, my skill set is my first touch and being able to control the ball. And then once I know that that's in tune and on, and then I start, looking forward and connecting and getting opportunities going forward.
Is there anything you do like to do during training week, or not like to do, but you want to tick off during the training week to give you confidence going into a game or a tournament? Yeah,
for sure. We work a lot, again, as a midfield group in our receive and how we can break lines going forward. And Tuesdays is our individual day as such. So we get to work on things that maybe you don't get in a match play situation like this morning, where sometimes it's just not on or you can't. So Tuesdays I spend a lot of time again with the other midfielders and a lot with our defenders, hitting the ball as hard as they can, making us trap it, and then turning around or making sure that your first touch is on, and connecting with other guys going forward. Is Tuesdays. I love Tuesdays, is because matches sometimes it goes so quickly that you forget in the moment that you can't just go over and say, "Hey Moose, can I have a word with you?" Because the game's gone. It's just way too fast to be able to, unless you get time on the bench together. And most of the time you're sucking in the big ones on the bench anyway and getting some fluid that you sometimes can't talk to each other because you're so tired. So Tuesdays we get a really good opportunity to maybe do one or two sets, and then we stop and get a whiteboard and have a real think about, if this guy is our defender and he's going to move here, then we can roll this way and play you in on the other side of the field, and little things like that, which I love being able to do. And I also love being able to watch the film as well. We obviously film our games, but we also film training from drones and GoPros all over the field, and that's available to us like on our phone or our laptop after trainings. Something like that. I don't know what it's called these days, but it's changed 3 or 4 times over the last little bit. But you can go on there, and we as a midfield group catch up once a week normally on a Monday morning and have a coffee and sit down and say like, Flynn, you're doing this really awesome. Like, keep doing that. Or for myself, like, you can't keep doing that because you're getting dispossessed. Like, the conversations we have within our midfield group and our back group and our striker group are really good. And I guess all that comes down to the culture of our group is just so strong at the moment. It's so cool to be a part of.
Is that all those like coffee catch ups and going through videos? Is that led by the kind of the older guys, and then the younger guys kind of?
I think a little bit. Like someone's got to, initiate it. But in saying that, it's not always the senior guys initiating those things. It might be one of the younger guys coming and asking a question of, what did you think of that? And sometimes, again, the game's so fast that sometimes you don't see all those things. So it's like, or can you find me that clip, or can you draw it up and come and show me? Like, and they then take the initiative to go and get that clip or to send it through our Viber message or something like that, which is cool.
Yeah. So you're all individual. So there might be 5 of you. Some of you might all pick out 3 clips. You'll cut them yourself and show.
Yep. So we and most of the time, which is the cool thing, is that because we're so on the same page, 5 of the guys, like I said, might pick out 3 clips, and each of us will have 2 of the same clips, everyone. And
that's
so you know, so you know that, okay, well, he's obviously thinking that, I'm thinking that, this guy's thinking that. So it's a good way to be able to recognize, like, we all know what the game plan is and how to go about that. And we come back with the same clips that, everyone's on the same page.
Well, that happened this week with us. All the coaches almost picked the same ones and they almost weren't going to do it, but they were all watching at the same time. Then they all posted all at the same time. And then they were going to take it down, but then the coach was like, "Well, it's blatantly obvious." That was it was a negative kind of clip. It was like showing the defense. It was leaking. Like, well, was that obvious? We all saw it. We didn't see it.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. And I think for, like, you talk as a coaching group, we have the same. And most of the times, the coaching group have their own line. It'll be Batchy or Rob or Potsy will have their line, and the same thing. You watch it. It might be talking about something different within that clip, but 9 times out of 10, it's the same clip, and which is different, just from a different perspective. Yeah. So I think that again, going back to our culture, that's just how strong it is within our group.
How was that developed, that culture? Is it something that's just happened? You kind of come in and it's kind of naturally kind of blossomed, that culture? Is it, or has it been led from a coaching group?
Yeah, I think it's been led a little bit, certainly at the start. I guess after the disappointment of Rio, we kind of needed to find ourselves again as a group, and with a new coaching group, again, going back to it a little bit, but new coaching group, a little bit of a new squad. I guess we wanted to work out where we were going with the group. Was it to plateau for the next few years and just rock up to tournaments and participate and get better maybe in 3 or 4 years' time, or was it get started and rip in straight away? And I think we did that really well. I remember the coaches sitting down in one of our first meetings together as a group, and they threw out their philosophy of coaching and what it meant for them to be at where they were, whether that was Batchy as a head coach or Rob Hammond as an assistant, Anthony Potter as an assistant. So they kind of led it from the charge. And we also have we call her our culture coach, Brian Fitzpatrick, who unfortunately lives on the East Coast. So we haven't seen a lot of him recently, but he certainly comes on every tour with us. And something big we talk about is that the culture is 8 times more important than skill for us. And we, talking about buying in, everyone's bought into that, I think, from the start. And yeah, like you said, we can go and catch a coffee with guys and we can say to someone like, mate, you're not doing this right. I think you need to do it, without him biting back and ripping my head off about it. So the way that, the group is, and the work that we certainly have worked on it. But now it feels pretty easy. And we work on it, but it's pretty much just out there and pretty fluent with it, I guess.
It's interesting that I agree with that comment, that culture is so much more important than skill. But it's always like you were saying, why is it so much more important? It's so hard because skill can get you so many wins as well. But then culture is things that binds everyone together.
Yeah, for sure. It's just you have a good off-field culture, then it stems on field. You have trust and honesty with the group, then you don't go out there not to miss, you don't go out there to miss trap a ball, or you don't go out there to miss a goal, but you have that culture off field. It's like, I'm not going to yell at a guy because he's mistrapped it. I know he's not mistrapping it on purpose. But if you have that off-field culture, you might off-field, like the culture's not great. You might think like, what the are you doing? Yeah. Like, come on, mate, like pick yourself up. Yeah, we demand excellence of everyone, and there's certain stages where someone might give me a rocket, but they're doing it they're not having a go at me. They're saying, you know what I mean? Like, and I 100% trust whoever it is, whether that's Eddie, who's played the most games for the Kookaburras in the history of the game, or it might be Dylan Martin, who hasn't yet played a game for Australia. If either of those guys gave me a rocket, I would understand it's coming from a piece of, you need to be better, and not I'm having a go at you kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's where we are as a group. And everyone knows me around the group that I love being involved with the Kookaburras, and I love the culture that we've grown. And I couldn't say anything highly or negatively about it at the moment.
Going back to that one, I was involved with the footy team back in Adelaide, and Jenny Williams was our a mental health coach, which came on board more of like a leadership kind of perspective, but she helped out the whole. We had a really young group, it was a waffle equivalent over in Adelaide. Okay. We were that really, really young. I think one player was born over 94, all the rest were 22, 25 and under. Okay. A couple of guys 17, in that draft age.
Oh yeah, sure.
And she, the start of the year, she kind of sat them all down, and we're talking about the feedback that you get, it's not coming from a place of ripping you for no reason. Yeah. You got to expect he's not kicking that, he's not missing that target on purpose. Sure. And she was talking about the flow state, and she has her own book as well. She was really, really interesting to get to really good for the group as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Half of the time, those young boys, you kind of go off separately outside of football as well. And we had a few nights where they would just play a bit of some games like puzzles and that sort of stuff in some groups, and still made a bit of competitive base, but they were bonding together in little groups.
100%.
And that sort of stuff builds up culture.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, it
because
certainly
it means
does.
you're not really telling someone off because you don't like them. It's really because everyone wants to be better and we want to win.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'll say it again, is that if you don't have that culture, it feels then, if I have a go at someone, it feels like, well, like you're not doing any better. You missed trap one before. Like you're ripping me because you don't like me. Whereas, like you're saying, the culture is so high is that, okay, he's having got me because that was a really, really important moment. It's not because I don't like the guy, but that might have been a really important moment in the game and I need to be better. And I respect whoever's giving me an uppercut as such.
Yeah, and that's hard as well because when you're so young too, you haven't developed your brain as really fully developed till you're like 22. That is the last part that actually devops is your emotional capacity
For sure.
to be able to interpret what everything means. Really, isn't
exactly
it?
Right. Exactly right.
And then some more emotional maturity as you age, and it's not so much about I'm doing this wrong. I'm beating yourself up a lot. It's about we want to be better as a group.
For sure.
Look at it less as an individual type of
100%.
performance. It's more of the team. Like you were saying, you're going to bring everyone up, make everything more important.
For sure.
So when you're over in Queensland growing up, were you recognised as in the QAS? Or you weren't as a...
Yeah, I was.
Went through that system?
Yeah, I went through the system probably when I was about 16, I think, 17. I'd played... I was very, very fortunate enough to play most junior state teams with, the utmost help from my parents paying all that money to get me to every... First off, to get me to the state championships playing for Brisbane, which we travelled all over Queensland, and then that's how they picked their state teams. It's a little bit different over here where you play for your club and then you get picked. So we actually would go and play for our city as such. So we would go up to Cairns and play a tournament in Cairns, Brisbane versus Cairns or Brisbane versus Rockhampton or Brisbane versus Townsville. Oh. So that's how it was done as a junior kid in Queensland. Yeah. So first of all, it's mum and dad, the amount of money they would have spent on fuel and the amount of money they spent on fees and stuff like that. Looking back would have been a lot. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go to those state championships and then go to be selected for Queensland teams that went away and played WA or played New South Wales or whatever, wherever that may be in Australia. And then I probably was recognised 16, made the Australian schoolboys team that we toured South Africa, which was really cool. It was the hockey probably wasn't the greatest standard that I've ever played, but it was the first time that I'd been away out of Australia on a hockey trip, and that was really cool. I funnily enough played with Aaron Zaluski, who have now played nearly 200 games for Australia. We played in the same team then, and there's a few guys that have come through as well, that system, that have now played for the Kookaburra. So being and knowing them, I become good friends with him when I was 16, and then you play against them a few more times when you're 18, under 21, stuff like that, and you end up playing with him all the time now, which is pretty cool looking back on. But selected for that, and then I think my first QAS scholarship was around then, and then which was cool. I was introduced to the gym and introduced to a nutritionist and things like that, where you don't get at club level or anything like that. You don't really think about it. You just go out and play hockey, and a few more things to think about after that selection. And then, fortunately enough, a couple of years later, I was offered an AIS one, so moved to Perth. Yeah,
that was 3 years.
Yeah,
would have been that. That's quick.
Yeah,
that's quick for stuff, because you generally, most people when they get picked, they go through the field that I'm not sure if it was the same at the time, but it's the future squad, and it's the futures, juniors, and then the development squad, and then it goes in the national squad.
Yeah. So there's a few different. It has certainly changed now. In 2009, which is my first ever, my first AHL. I was actually selected as a shadow player as such for that tournament. For the entire time, the AHL used to go. So Queensland would come over to WA, play 2 games, go back to Queensland. Next weekend they'd play Victoria. Victoria and Melbourne or something like that. And I was kind of like on the reserve list if someone got injured. And actually Queensland came and played over in WA, and one of our players broke his ankle during the games, and the following weekend was actually finals week down in Tasmania. So Greg Browning at the time, the coach, called me up and said, look, you're in. You're going to the finals week in AHL. And
goodness.
Yeah, so that I was kind of, wasn't expecting that, and I was thrown in there, and I didn't play a lot. That was still kind of the time where there wasn't really rolling subs. It was more just like best players play.
2009 was it?
Yeah, best players play, and if you needed, you go on for 2 or 3 minute stints here and there.
Yeah, okay.
And, I was lucky enough to get a couple of minutes in the semi-final and scored 2 goals against, I think it was New South Wales. I think something like that. And we made the final, and I started the final out of pure luck, I guess, from scoring a couple of goals, and we ended up losing the game. But after that, I was invited, or Jason Duff, who's now at the moment, he's our video technician or analyst. So it's funny how things work in circles and how big, how small the hockey community is. But so he was at the time, 2009, the Junior World Cup was to be played in Singapore and Malaysia at the end of the year. And Jug offered me an opportunity to go to Darwin for a training camp with the team. And that was my first ever involvement in a national junior squad, like program as such. There was Youth Olympics and things like that at the time, which had never been involved in or never really knew about until this period of time, and went to Darwin, and we had maybe 3 or 4 games, again, intra-squad kind of. There would have been maybe 40 under 21 kids up there, and I think I was only 18 or even 17 at the time, and went up there and played a few games, and I thought, like, just as a number, like just to make up numbers, I'm in that kind of age bracket. And for me, I was never thinking about going to the Junior World Cup that time. And with the way it worked out, I would have missed out the next time because I would have been too old. 4 years later, I would have been 22, so I would have missed out on that next one. So I remember getting off the flight coming home, and I was in the car on the way home with Dad, and Dad asked me, how was it? And all I remember saying to him, it was so hot. Like, I was so tired. It was so hot up there. And then my phone rang, and it was Jason, and he said, you'd made the team going to the Junior World Cup. And I was like, what? Like, what had just happened? 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I wasn't playing AHL. A guy breaks his foot. I get thrown into the AHL Queensland team, go to Darwin for 2 weeks, and then I'm now going to the Junior World Cup in 2000, in 3 or 4 weeks later. So things went really, really quickly. Was just like super, super excited and over the moon that I'd been recognised for thinking at the time, and again, you do as a kid, you put in all that hard work, all that extra stuff away from training, all that extra stuff away from maybe the group that you're involved in, and went away and played Junior World Cup in Malaysia and Singapore. We ended up coming third, and the following year I was invited on an AIS like a 2-week scholarship thing. They call them, I can't remember what they call them now, like a VAS, a visiting athlete agreement. So I was invited the next year on that, and we played. Australia was playing Argentina in a series over here at the end of 2010. So I'd spent most of the year, had a pretty good AHL in 2010. We ended up winning, more so because Rick had changed the rules for that AHL. There wasn't the penalty corner. I think he thought that World Hockey was going to take out the penalty corner at the time because of the flicking and was getting quite dangerous. Yeah, okay. So Rick made a rule that in 2010, a penalty corner was going to be the goalkeeper and 2 defenders. Yep. And then 4, so someone pushing out the ball as such, and then 3 players on the top of the 25. Yeah. And then it was just 4 on 2, basically, and a goalie. Okay. So 4 on 3 as such. Yeah, okay. And like we had Jamie Dwyer pushing the ball out, or Liam DeYoung. Yeah. We had Knowlesy, Rob Hammond, Jason Wilson, all these guys that had played for Australia, 4 on 2. It was like pretty much everyone else was running back to halfway because we'd scored every time. So not saying that was the only reason, but we played some pretty good hockey. But if there was actual penalty corners, we might have struggled a little bit in that aspect. So we were really lucky in that. Sorry for going on a bit of a tangent there. Right. So I was invited over to this Ais Scholarship, and Australia were playing Argentina in a 3-game series or something, and Argentina ended up asking if they could play a couple of warm-up games against an Australian A team, and that's why hence I was invited over.
Yeah.
And we beat them both times, the Australia A team. I think we beat them 3-0 in the 1-0 in the first game and 3-0 in the second game, and I scored in both games.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, well, that worked out well. And then that was in about November, and then, December, just before Christmas, Rick called me and said, like, you've been offered a scholarship, come on over. And
far out.
That's how so it went like really quickly. And coming back to the start of this is when I said that I probably was thrown in it, and you asked the question, I was probably thrown in it just a little bit too deep, and still learning to swim at that time. And with everything, I'd performed in that aspect, but the constant getting up for training, the constant, like I said, how fast the game was, it probably was necessary that I needed to spend a little bit more time away from it rather than continuing to be battered and bruised and not, I guess, get to where I was or where I am now.
Did you feel like you came in for that game with the guy who broke his foot? Do you feel like there wasn't like a lot of pressure, and that's why
100%,
you performed
100%.
well?
Even the next year as well. Like I'd gone to the Junior World Cup, and I still think that I don't know if it was the right decision from the coaching group. I guess I'll never know that. Again, I didn't feel any pressure on me to perform in that because I thought, like, I'm just going to go. I've never been involved. Like, all these guys knew each other from, like I said, Youth Olympics, and I was kind of the fresh guy to come in, and I thought I played okay and, like, did my job as a striker, scored a few goals here and there. And, I think that it was one of those things that just happened so quickly that I just couldn't really get my head around as such. And the pressure, like you said, was really not there as well in 2010. Like I was just like, all right, that's done now. Like I'll go back to club hockey, and a couple of guys from the Junior World Cup team played for the Kookaburras in 2010, and like I knew that kind of time for myself had passed. Like I wasn't going to get the call saying you're coming to Perth now. Like it's just going to be another year in Brizzy, which I was completely fine with at the time. And my goal at that point was to make the Queensland Blades team, not as a reserve, to make it as an actual like player in the 18, and did that, and scored a few goals. And that's probably where I then maybe put a little bit too much pressure on myself going in to the Kookaburras, and not maybe performing like I had done, and hence the reason that I was left out.
It's always an interesting how much pressure perceived pressure.
Yeah, perceived pressure
puts
for sure.
Affects your game.
For sure.
Do you look much into that sort of stuff now? Like you want to, before a game, you block things out, or you write things out? Because Tom Harvey on the podcast, he has his journal, but he blocks everything out, like in terms of whatever's happening with selection and all that sort of stuff. And then he has a couple of things he focuses on for the game. That's what he
definitely. I think we get hit with a lot of information over a tournament as such. There's different teams that you have to play and different players that you come up against. But I think for myself, and I've found the best thing that works is if I write down 2 or 3 things that I'm focusing on. Most of the time for me, it's my first touch is always number one that I write down, because I know that if that's, like I said before, if that's on, then I know I can then create more for my teammates going forward. And if that's off, then it puts a lot of pressure on our defenders. Do they want to pass it in to me because I've mishandled the ball, or will guys be from the opposition pressuring me more because I've mishandled it? So little things like that. So normally, and most of the time, my first thing I ever write down in my book before a game or in the pre-game briefing is like Jake first touch is always there. And then it's the game plan, whether it's I think for me being more in that midfield is I can see what the opposition are doing as well, whether or not they're full pressing or they're zonal, or so I try to make a bit of a point to our group of seeing what they do, and then we react off that. Whether a team's full pressing, then we have to go into a different structure, or a team's zonal, then this is how we play. So I kind of write that down as well, and it's normally 1 or 2 of those things that I focus on, and leave everything else out. Because if you don't look after yourself, then to start with, then there's no point being out there really.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because always that little bit of conjecture, like if you're playing against like another top team and you know their game plan, do you go in and stop their game plan, or do you play your game plan?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a
game plan.
It's a tight line. Yeah, it's a really good question. Like you said, if you go in and think about them too much, you forget about your own performance, or vice versa. If you go too internal and just think about yourself, then you forget about what the other team are doing, and you might be playing right into their hands. If I keep asking the ball from our backs in the midfield, and they want us to get the ball in the midfield so they can come and steal it off me, you're going internal. So I think, I think I've worked really hard over the last couple of years being in the midfield and having guys like, again, go back to Moose and Eddie and guys that have been there and done that before in the midfield, learning from them and how they see the game, and just trying to not so much take over from them, but help them out as much as I can by seeing those things.
Have you put a finger on what it was when you were younger that got you, that the selectors saw in you that put you up straight away into selection, like into national selection or anything like that? Was it your skill, athleticism? Yeah, the whole package.
No, definitely not the whole package. Definitely. You can still see I don't have the whole package. I think it was just getting into the group. I think it was my ability to score goals from anywhere inside the circle, which, I was either diving on the back post or was willing to, like, I've been hit in the mouth I don't know how many times because I've been in a position where I've wanted to score, but maybe the goalie's kicked it. The recent one was that I was on the far post and the goalie like hit his kicker and straight into my mouth. But I was in a position to score a goal. Little things like that, which I think you think at the time probably like, might go unnoticed, but you know that it doesn't. The coach has watched the film so many times, and the one time that you don't do it and the ball goes past the far post, you get reamed for. So for me, it was like, make sure as a young kid, make sure I get to the far post. I might not touch it, but the time I do, I'm in a position to score a goal for my team. So I think that was probably one that I look back and answer that question is, my agility and speed and my goal scoring prowess, I guess, as a young kid for sure.
Was that like a natural, even when you're younger, just starting, was that a natural thing? You always had the knack? Or was it just kind of, you had to work on it?
I certainly worked on it. When I was younger, I played in the midfield. More so that's just where I ended up. Most coaches just put me in centre half, and that's where I was. And it still probably happens, is that even in footy or AFL, most young kids get thrown up front because, again, like I said before, is that if you lose the ball up front, it's not a huge deal. We can win it back in the midfield, or our defenders will win it back. You throw a young kid at left half or right half in a game of international hockey, they're again swimming without a paddle kind of thing, because they're just so, the heightened situation of the game is, if you make one mistake, you're going to pay for it. So I kind of then, as a young kid, was thrown up in the striker area, and did okay and scored a few goals, and
clearly scored a few goals.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how I made my way in, I guess.
Did you ever go outside of Australia, play hockey anywhere else other than
I would love to. Yeah. I've teed it up 3 or 4 times to do it, and it just hasn't quite come off.
Over European.
In Europe, Holland. I tried Holland a couple of times and Belgium once, and things just didn't fall in place for whatever reason. But certainly is something still on the bucket list. I think I've said this to a few people, that if I don't get the opportunity, I'll probably kick myself that I didn't. The lifestyle they have over there, being over there for a few times with international stuff, the lifestyle, it's professional. Like they're training 2 times a day, 4 days a week. They play on the weekend, then they go back and do it. Whereas it's a little bit different here.
That's their club level.
They're our equivalent. Our equivalent to club stuff. So we're they certainly do it a lot differently, and as well as it's also an opportunity to refresh and learn from someone else, or learn maybe how the Europeans play selfishly to bring back to Australian hockey, and when we play them, this is how this guy plays, or things like that.
Hockey over there's big,
huge, huge. Holland probably behind soccer, their biggest sport. Belgium again behind a bit of soccer and stuff like that, but huge participation. Like each club have 5-6 turfs, whereas you look in Australia, maybe a Melbourne club might have 3, which is the biggest in Australia, where they've got 5 or 6 running it. Every time you go over, there's kids everywhere playing hockey. There's adults everywhere playing hockey, men and women. And
there's obviously money in that as well.
A little bit of money as well, which is also an incentive to go over there. And I guess now with the career that I've had behind me, is I've been able to, hopefully use that later come negotiations, I guess, with them. So that'll help. But yeah, certainly on the radar, going over there for sure.
Do you have a desired place? With Spain?
I'd love to go to Spain. Sit on the beaches in Barcelona or something like that. Probably Holland or Belgium.
Yeah,
just the history that the Hoofdklasse have in Holland, and now that the Belgium league is nearly, if not the best, behind or either other. I probably couldn't comment on which is better. But yeah, the way that they again go about things, and something that I think is really desirable and such a big opportunity as a hockey player in Australia to go over there and experience that for sure.
What I also didn't know, that India as well, hockey over there is a pretty prestigious sport, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah, it certainly is. I was very luckily enough to play 3 seasons in India for the Indian Premier League. So it's very, very similar to their cricket. Take a few zeros off the contract, and but very similar. So was drafted to a team. Ended up playing for a team out in Chandigarh, which is north of India, up near the Himalayas in Nepal. So it was really cool. Wow. Every time we flew in to our home town you'd fly over the Himalayas, and the only nervous thing was that it was about 20 minutes from the Pakistan border. So there was a lot of there was a lot of stuff on the news that was like, Pakistan doesn't like India, and you're like, please don't come any further than 20 minutes north, 20 minutes south. Sorry. So, but yeah, that was an unreal experience. Cool. Like we played in front of crowds that you just don't get in Australia or anywhere in the world. I think the final one of the years we played in Delhi, which holds like 20,000 people, and that was packed to the rafters. There was people sitting on top of the roof, and just little things like that where you don't experience anything like that in Australia. And the Indian culture is they just are absolutely sport mad, whether that's cricket, hockey, soccer, tennis, badminton, like they just absolutely love it no matter what it is. And it's just such a friendly country that I hate seeing what they're going through at the moment, being able to spend time. And I think I worked out before our last trip, I'd spent over 400 days in India throughout my life. So I've had a really good relationship with India. And it's awful seeing what's going on over there, knowing that how tough they do it anyway, let alone with this going on. So, thoughts and feelings going out to everyone over there at the moment. But we're super, super lucky to be able to play in that competition and experience something completely different. And I don't think I'll ever experience that ever again. Yeah, wow.
Did you have issues like communication issues?
That was everything like that. There was, especially with the draft system. So there's so many different languages in India that some of our Indian players spoke one language, some of them spoke another language. They spoke fairly broken English. Our coach was English, so he was Australian. Our meetings, like a half an hour meeting, would go for like 2 hours because he would have to say something in English. Then one translator would translate for a group of Indians who spoke that language. Then another translator would speak that language, and then we would obviously hear it from the English point of view. But like if I had a question,
you have to wait.
I have to wait till everyone hears it. So like, I reckon I go through about 25 chomps a meeting because I'm sitting there like, all right, who's got a question? And by the end of it, it was like no one's going to ask because we knew how long it was we're going to sit there for. So, but it was like to see how they lived, and we were really fortunate enough to be able to go over and spend time with families from some of the Indian, our Indian players. Some of them were from Chandigarh, and like we would go for dinner at one of their guys' place, and you'd walk in, it honestly would be like a size of this room, and there's 15 people all living in a room like this, and you'd have dinner and they were so welcoming. And the communication, you ended up just kind of pointing and being as polite as you could. But yeah, there was certainly difficulties.
Did you pick up much?
Yeah, a little bit.
What do you got for me?
No, I don't have much at the moment.
Rusty.
Very rusty. I haven't been back for a while, and some of the things like I would pronounce it wrong, and I'm like, man, I'm telling you this, and they'd like turn around like, that's not how you say it. Like, and I'm like, so I'll just stop. I'll just point and So no, my Indian is far from their English is a lot better than my Indian.
Yeah, right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Does it ever? So obviously a lot of traveling there, and as well playing overseas a lot and traveling, all that. Does it get too much? Like, does it traveling? Obviously, when you were young, would have been like really exciting. Did it wear as it worn away? That kind of.
It probably did before this all happened.
Now it's back.
I'd love to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But there was a stage maybe. Probably the longest trip that I did away was 2014. We spent, I think it ended up being 78 days in India, which was, that was about the time where I went, I need to come back to Australia now and need to get back to my partner at the time. And fortunately enough, and taking, I guess, a silver lining out of this, I've been able to spend a lot of time now with my young family, which has been, something that really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Really appreciative of. I guess I roomed a lot with Mark Knowles when he was in the group, and he does. He's got 3 young kids, and he was away a lot from them growing up, and on FaceTime a lot and things like that, and never really got into a routine. He'd come back, and then we'd obviously 2 weeks here, and then we'd go to another tournament. So seeing that, and again, a bit of a silver lining, but I've been able to spend a lot of time with my young fella who's 2.5 and my little girl who's 8 months. Like if this pandemic wasn't around, I probably would have missed 6 months of her life growing up, kind of thing. So certainly taking the good with that. But selfishly, can't wait to go on a trip and be around the boys, like I said before, and get that camaraderie back again.
And also would have been a challenge when you were younger, was moving over to Perth and didn't know anyone.
Yep,
and
for sure.
Was this with your partner move over as well?
Yeah. So she moved over about 4 months later. So I was over here living with one of the guys. So it was pretty cool. And again, being young, it was a little bit, I guess probably went out party too much as a young kid, but that's life. You learn and you make mistakes and whatever, and things come from it. But she moved over, and it was just me and her, and things have obviously changed now. And but it was hard. It was difficult. It was the first time moving out of home, and I lived on 2-minute noodles and peanut butter on toast and all those tin spaghetti for probably a year because we you just take those things for granted at home, don't you? It's just like you think about it. So mum cooks, she cleans, she does my room, she puts my clothes in the washing machine. So it was a big wake up call. Yeah, you certainly don't. And
how much time like cleaning your house takes?
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah,
it still sucks. It hasn't changed ever since I was first move over to now. It still sucks cleaning the house and doing all the washing and stuff like that.
So you need to start a podcast because we've been every week now. The house gets cleaned before someone comes over.
That's a good day. I might take that into consideration.
When you first moved over, was it hard to kind of separate, like, because you had a lot of hockey friends, right?
Yep.
Was it hard to separate your life as a hockey player and then your life as not a hockey player?
It never. When I moved to Perth, it never really was anything other than hockey.
Yeah, okay.
Like you said, I didn't have school friends over here, so the only friends that I had were hockey friends. It's changed now. I've got a good group of non-hockey or hockey friends that hockey isn't everything to them.
Yeah,
it's a sport and that's it. And we'll go for a lemonade on the weekend or watch the races or go and watch the footy or something. So it's not everything to them. Whereas I first moved over, all of my friends, hockey was everything. And that wasn't a bad thing. It was just never had that get away from just being able to go and hang out with your mates and like I did back in Queensland or Brizzy, you obviously have all your schoolmates there, and you go and play your game, you go to training, but on a Sunday you go and spend time with your school friends. Whereas when I moved over, I didn't have those school friends as such, or I didn't have those friends. So again, not saying that was a bad thing, but my mind was always hockey, or whenever we got it together as a group, it was someone would always bring up hockey because that's their life. So it was difficult to, I guess, to get away from it, and I probably didn't do it as best as I could have. Like I didn't go and try and find friends, if that makes sense. Branch out my social life as much as probably that I love to encourage kids to do, not kids, but the guys coming in, like go and find some friends away from hockey, so you're not constantly thinking about it 24/7, 7 days a week kind of thing. You need that time, and I've certainly gotten better at it now. Like the work that I do away, like work at a cafe, and that's completely hockey irrelevant. Like no one gives a damn that I play hockey for Australia. Like it doesn't matter. If I don't make them a good coffee, they're going to tell me. You know what I mean? So that's been a really positive thing later in life for myself, as well as obviously having kids and stuff like that, and my partner, and we've been able to get away from the hockey sense. But for a young guy, I would have loved to be able to just roll down to the local grounds and kick a footy or something. Or when I did do that, it was always with hockey blokes, and we'd end up talking about hockey, which again wasn't a bad thing, but it would have been interesting to see how I would have gone without, or with that other social aspect of life for sure.
Did you have any, I guess, bad habits outside of, I guess, like your skill areas, that sort of stuff? Anything else that could have made you better athlete that you had to kind of shave off?
Oh, it's a good question. I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know if I had any. I still have bad traits on the field. Like I get frustrated and things like that, which have been involved in my game since I was a kid. I think that's just the competitive. I'm just such a competitive person that if I don't get a decision go my way, or I think I've been wrong, I'll let someone know about it, kind of thing, which that's more on-field stuff, which I've worked pretty hard on over my life.
In trouble with the refs.
Definitely. Hopefully Batchy's not listening to this. But things like that. Probably for me is probably finding something to do outside of hockey would have been, even if it was go to TAFE. I ended up doing that, but only recently. Yeah, right. So I went to in maybe 17 or 18, I did my PT course at the Australian Institute of Fitness, and
cool.
I would have, or I should have certainly done that earlier on, which would have given me a bit more opportunity again to make a friendship group away from hockey, or find a job at a cafe like I have now, and little things like that where I look back and think, probably should have made a little bit more of my time, because you'd go to training, go to gym, have a meeting, go home and sit on the couch and play a bit of Xbox, and like that was all fun and games for the first 3 or 4 years, but not even that long. First maybe 2 or 3 years, but I probably, thinking back, look at something outside of hockey for sure.
So you didn't work when you were younger?
I actually worked at a fish market in Brizzy, which again through hockey, but it was like I started at 3 a.m. and finished at 11 because we had training in the afternoon. So it worked out really well. So I would go home, have a nap, and then get up and train, and then go home and do it all again.
What time do you go to bed?
Like when you after 7 p.m. Something like that, to get up early. Exactly. So I did that, and I tried to do that for about 6 weeks here, and because we trained in the mornings, it just wouldn't work. Like I was getting up at 2.
What, like fish market here?
Down in Frio at Callis Brothers. So I'd get up at like 2:30, go down there, work till like 6:30, training about 7:30 or 8, And you just couldn't do it. It was just way too hard. And especially coming into the group, you just wanted to focus on the group. And I got a job at the time, it was called Hockey International, which was, sorry, not Hockey International, Hockey Action, sorry.
Yeah.
But I think, again, being around hockey, like it's all you thought about. It was easy to get the job because I was very fortunate enough to be able to be given it, and I had a good understanding of how to sell a hockey stick. but it was still, you'd finish training on a Saturday and then you'd go and spend 6 hours at a hockey shop. Like it was just constant hockey. This person wants to know. And then someone maybe recognize you in the hockey community and you end up talking for an hour about training or how the kookaburras are going or something like that. So I never really got away from it. It was, and which I keep going back, it wasn't a bad thing, but I probably, looking back, would have liked to be able to train and then go to a cafe and work for 6 hours in a cafe and talk to someone else about maybe how their job's going, not about hockey as such. So a rounded question. I went the long way about it, sorry, but that's probably,
right. That's why we do podcast. Talk as long as we want.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's probably something that I would have changed, if anything.
And for those who are listening, a national hockey player, level hockey player, playing in the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, multiple gold medals, has to still work.
Has to still work. And I actually, believe it or not, work 2 jobs. At the moment, I unfortunately had to give the cafe just a bit of a hiatus just with our trainings. But I was working in cafe, and I also do coaching for Wesley School. So I do Tuesday, Thursday afternoons, again out at hockey, which I'm fine with. My life's changed that I'm okay with being more at hockey than I am, and then Saturday mornings with the group playing a game. So we were luckily, again, very, very fortunate to be able to have that kind of job and be paid a little bit of money. But like you said, 2 jobs, playing.
Plus all the meetings, all the trainings.
Yep.
Getting up early to train, have to do all that as well.
And look, we know as hockey players we're getting into that, and you could easily choose not to and go and do what you want to do outside and go and make a living not playing the sport. But we sign up for it, and coming in that you're not going to become a millionaire playing hockey. And I still don't. I'm super stoked with the amount of money that I get paid from hockey, because I just absolutely love it. And I would honestly, and it's a bit of a cliche, but if I didn't get paid anything, you'd still rock up and you'd still perform at the highest level, because you want to be the best person you can be. And like you said, you want to keep winning gold medals for your country.
It's crazy because I had a gold medal, and Olympic gold is like so prestigious, and people look up so highly to that as well. That you strive to be the best, and it doesn't really. You make things work around that.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Make things work.
You just make it work. Yeah,
it's crazy. I said it before, but I've had a job interview one stage, and I asked one of the people who was interviewing me, asked her a question. I asked, what gets you up in the morning to go be a coach, essentially? And she goes, winning gold medals. And I look back and I've gone, that makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, it certainly does.
At the end of the day,
at the end of the day,
you want to win or you want to lose. You always you do your best to make everyone fit, healthy, all this sort of stuff. Yep. But really, as a coach, everyone should be in the business to win gold medals, win premierships.
For sure. Yeah, and that's a big part. It's certainly a huge amount of why I get out of bed, as well as being able to be a person for someone to look up to as well. Like that always comes with the territory of being an elite sport. You want to be able to do the best you can, and for someone watching to be able to say one day that I want to be. For me, it was I want to be like Jamie. I want to be like Mark Knowles. I want to be like all these guys that were my heroes growing up. I want to be that, and I've hopefully been able to do that for some young kid, whether that be playing hockey or whether that be in a different aspect of life.
Do you look at coaching in the future outside of
potentially? Yeah, potentially. I think I think that's something that I've thought of before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure in what capacity. I don't know if I could be a head coach.
Okay.
I think my communication skills at the moment would be more suited to maybe an assistant coach or someone that works maybe with a midfield group and aligns them with them. That's at the moment. Not saying that would never change, but yeah, I really like being able to help in particular where I feel like I'm good at. Talking about the coaching stuff at Wesley, I look after more assistant coach, but I sit up in the stands on a Saturday morning, watch the game from a hole and let the head coach make all the decisions, and I kind of pass on my information, what I'm seeing, and he takes that, whether or not he gives that to the group or not. So I think that's where I guess I feel as though my coaching would be best managed is seeing from afar or sitting from afar and feeding information to the head coach. I feel I read the game of hockey quite well. Yeah. I don't know whether or not that's just a knack or I've learned it along the way. Certainly learned things along the way, but I feel like I've got a really good, wide perspective of how the game is played, and whether or not that would be good for a head coach, I'm not sure, but certainly along the lines of being able to coach in some aspect for sure. Yeah.
Do you find it hard? I'm not sure if it's the same with footy, but does hockey as it's watched on TV is filmed from the side?
Yep.
And obviously you watch a lot of footage is from behind and up high, right?
Yep.
Do you find it hard to watch the hockey on TV? Or
it is. It's really difficult because I want to do is watch what my opponent's doing and not the ball. I couldn't care where the ball is. If my opponent's running, it's like you speak of footy, and I'm not a massive AFL guy. I'm a Queenslander through and through rugby league, but when I go to watch the AFL, is I look at the midfield group and I see some guy, the ball might be on the sideline, but on the other side of the field, there's one midfielder who's run from his own pocket to the other pocket and then gets the ball. And you go, where'd he come from? Because obviously the TV doesn't see that, but it's just exactly the same with hockey. It follows the ball, which it needs to because it's so fast. Yeah. If you don't follow the ball, you don't know what's going on. But from a I guess, a intellect and looking at it from a different perspective, I would much rather them film from behind, but it's not the best for the viewing.
Yeah, you're right.
You just can't win.
If I do go to watch footy now, I'll go watch it up high so I can. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
so
it.
do I.
My parents, I want to get close. I'm like, no, I can't see what's happening.
Yeah, exactly right. And completely the same. And you see everything. You see the ball in the, I guess, your peripherals of where you're looking, but you also see how far this guy's run or where this guy's lead has come from. So I'm with you. And it's 100%.
Good I like watching it because you see everyone, you get to see the run, see the spreading. Obviously, sometimes a little bit of tactics that the commentators might not say a lot about or anything like that anyway, but
100%.
It's good to view.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is.
Before we finish off, we've got the final question from Uncle Frank. He just sends me a couple of questions to ask everyone. The question is, if nothing was impossible and money wasn't an object, what would you do?
Honestly, I'd play golf.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think
There's
so.
a couple of hockey players that
we got a pretty good group of guys playing golf at the moment. Yeah. If it wasn't impossible that I could hit 60 every day, I reckon I'd play that, and you'd probably get a bit of money going along the way if you're hitting those kind of scores. So, golf's a big one for us. It's I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent again. Yeah. But we talk about something a bit like our third place, which is you've obviously got your hockey or your work and study, and then we talk about a third place. For me, it's at the moment it's family, but for a lot of guys, it's golf. It's that time to get away from everything. And a few guys think they hit the ball pretty well. We don't. Yeah,
name and shame.
Well, Tom Wickham, he's a good one for it. He'll smack his 4-iron as far as anyone's drive, and then his drive will end up on Great Eastern Highway from somewhere. He has hit a hole in one. So
no way!
He hit it at Wembley, and I was actually playing that day. So he'll always have that on the boys until someone else hits one. So that was a pretty cool day. But a lot of the boys get away and get out and have a bit of a whack of the golf ball.
I say golf is almost like addicting as gambling, or like pokies or something like that, because you hit one ripper shot and then you have like 25.
And it's normally on the 18th.
You chase for that. You chase that one good shot.
Yeah, you hit a par or a birdie on the 18th, and you go, oh yes, I'm coming back. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. Even though you've hit 110, But golf would for Uncle Frank, golf would be it for me. So.
Beautiful. He doesn't mind a bit of golf, but yeah, for a few of our boys during the summer, they go out for golf.
Awesome. It's really
such a good. Well, I go actually spewing because we recently updated the studio, and I used to have my bike and my golf clubs used to be in here as well. I'm spewing that. The last podcast too was Barbie said she loved playing golf too, and I'm like, why am I changing the studio up?
Certainly good for the mind. You get frustrated, but good to get away from things.
What are your best spots?
We play a fair bit at Wembley.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's a nice one out there. Little bit at Collier. It's getting pretty busy there at the moment, so we've kind of stayed away from there.
We travel much down to Freo.
Yeah, played at Freo a few times. We kind of get down to like Port Kennedy and little links courses down there that we play a little bit. They're not as busy. They're pretty difficult as well with those bunkers and stuff. But it also gives we have Thursdays are our non-training days, so we were able to organise a few of the guys that. Most Wednesday afternoons, it's who's in for golf tomorrow, and there's a fair few boys that are pretty interested. And each year we have our Cookers Masters and set that up. And we normally have to get that done pretty soon, otherwise it'll get away from us. But,
it will.
We've got a few guys that hit pretty low. So
anyone who's kind of spent too much on a
Tom Wickham.
Yeah, he's another.
I'm coming back to it. Yeah, he's the good thing with Tom is if he's in for something, he's in.
100%.
So he's 100% in. So he got into bike riding or cycling last year with the COVID stuff and spent a fair bit of money on that. And
graphite bike.
Yeah, I don't know, but you can lift it up with your pinky. It's that bike. So. He's right into that, but he's spent a fair bit of money, and he uses
custom fitted.
Custom fitted Mizunos. I think he plays with, and only Pro V1s. So a new sleeve every time, and the first 3 holes they're all gone, and then pulls out another sleeve, and you go like, far.
Is it every club has a cover?
No, he's not that far. No, he's not that far.
He's got his little dial binocular.
Yeah, got that. Yeah, he's got that. So he hits it pretty well. He hits it pretty well without bragging on him too much. So.
All right. Awesome. All right, mate. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.